Hello viewers, and welcome once again to this social issue discussion on the social topics for Nagaland, social issue commentary for Nagaland. And today we have with us another special group of ladies, and they are from the State Resource Centre for Women. And so before we go into our topic, I would like to request each and every one of us to introduce ourselves. I am Wobang Moa, Director of Highland Down Media.
Hi, I'm Juliana. I'm the Assistant State Coordinator of State Resource Centre for Women.
Hi, my name is Lanuinla Imchen and I'm the Helpline Manager of Women Helpline 181 Nagaland.
Hello, my name is Rapapana Longkomer. I'm the caseworker of One Stop Center Koima.
And also thank you ladies. And we also have my co-presenter here. She's also from the State Center for Women. And so please introduce yourself.
I'm Gracie Aye, the State Coordinator. And we are so happy to be highlighting some of, though the topic today we're going to cover today is on legal entitlements and rights for women. There are many. If we go, it's a never-ending issue, but we thought we will highlight some of the most pertinent issues, depending on the most pertinent issues that women face today. We thought we will highlight only some of them.
Yeah, there's so many issues for women which we don't even know, which many people in society don't know, our Naga society especially. So we want to bring this to the forefront and discuss it right now. So we want to start again with the important legal rights and entitlement for women, which our Naga women must be aware of. So today our first subtopic within this topic is right to education. So many of us don't know what is right to education. So what exactly is right to education?
Right to education, Article 21A of the Constitution of India provides that all children within the age of 6 to 14 years shall have the right to free and compulsory elementary education at a neighborhood school. And with the passing of this Act in 2009, it has marked a historic moment for children in India, in our country. The Act provides us a building block to ensure that every child has his or her right as an entitlement to get quality education. This RTE has also provided a right platform to reach the unreached, the children who come from disadvantaged background, such as child laborers or the immigrant children, or children with special needs, with provisions, or children, those who are disadvantaged owing to cultural, or sometimes it can be economic or even geographical factors. So it focuses more on the quality teaching and learning process, and also a child-centered and child-friendly education.
Okay, for all sections of children, from any kind of background, especially from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Disadvantaged background.
Okay. And so this applies to Nagaland, right?
To all over the India.
Yes, to all states. I mean, to all districts, every village of Nagaland.
Each and every corner.
What about discrimination towards education, in the field of education? Do you think discrimination is there in the field of education?
Actually, when we look at our constitution, it says that every citizen should be treated equally. And you know, they also have the provision, as my colleague says, that free and compulsory education, right to education is there. And when we look at the system, I think no school has any rules written on the board that says that only boys will be allowed, or only boys will be given 50 of the seats and girls will be given 10 of the seats. Nothing such happens. So when we look at the system, we can say definitely there is no discrimination. But coming back closer home, let us look at some of the issues again. I'm not saying, I as personally would say I've never been discriminated. I've been blessed enough to have a good education. My father never discriminated me. But when you look at the system, you cannot look at your personal life and say there's no discrimination. There is discrimination. For example, we went to a district, I always state this example, but we went to a district for one of our scheme, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. And then when we were talking to all the NGOs and the HOHOs that were present, and you know, this teacher comes up and says that we ask, is there any discrimination? The irony is that a man stands up and he says that there is discrimination. because in my classroom a little girl brings only one notebook for all the subjects, whereas I asked her, like, why have you brought only this one notebook? And she says that my father, sends my brother to a private schools where he needs at least a separate notebook for all the subjects. But my father said, I'm in government school, so I don't need it. So there are also instances of girls where their brothers are sent to private schools now, and they are sent to government schools. So sometimes they'll come in, they won't wear the school uniform, and then they'll come and change in the school. So that they're ashamed to, to even acknowledge that they're in the government schools. And there are also, he was saying of how teachers should also be sensitized, how sometimes while going through the classes, they say that girls, after sometimes you'll get married, so better study now. That notion that you have to study and be someone is not given to a girl. We say that you have to be educated because you are going to get married. So I think we can't say that's a huge discrimination as such, because discrimination is a big word, but we can definitely say with personal examples that there is small discrimination which we might not even know are discrimination.
Okay, for example, this man was a teacher or a parent?
He is a teacher himself, and he is also a parent. So he stood up and he said this in front of all the people. So that's a huge plus point for us.
That's right. That's right.
What about exploitation in the, if I may add, what about exploitation in the name of education? I think that's also a reality where when I say exploitation, children are being lured from those districts and those rural areas where education system is not good, and lured them with a free education, and then they're kept in as domestic help in urban places like Kohima and Dimapur. It's a very sensitive topic, but I feel we must address it. And again, there most preferably the employer prefer to have a female who can kind of do all the multiple domestic chores as well. So what's your opinion on that?
For many, education seems to be a privilege, but no, it is wrong. Education is a human right, and for those like what you have stated, children from interior areas are brought to Kohima, to Dimapur, in the name of education, with an excuse that they will send them to schools, as though there are no schools in the interior places. So those kinds of acts are punishable under the Child Labor Act, because we cannot guarantee how his life is going to be in that household. We never know. It can also fall under the Human Trafficking Act.
Trafficking Act also.
Meaning, if the child is not given education after bringing to the owner's place.
No, even if the child gets education, but if the child is not treated right, if he has been assigned to do something that's too much for his age, or making him work in a factory, sending him to school, is not justified. It won't justify that you are right, because the act clearly says that children who are below the age of 14 years, who are made to work in a factory or in a hazardous environment, and I don't see the household chores are easy. I don't feel that way, because you are engaged the whole day and you don't get time to study or even get back to your book. So I don't feel that's justified.
Regarding the right to education, any other relevant point you would like to bring out, especially with regards to minors?
Is there any scheme, specific provision under this act?
Yes, there are certain schemes that the government provide, such as in the elementary level there is this SSA schemes, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, and then Mahila Samakhya also. Then there is also this midday meal program that provide nutrition for the school-going children as well. And then there is this in the secondary level there is RMSA. They also provide national scholarship schemes, and in the
higher education.
For higher education, and then in the higher secondary level there is post-matric scholarship schemes for SC, ST, and then there's also minority schemes, scholarship schemes as such.
I think one very important issue here is when we are talking about right to education, many of us as a civil society or as different organizations, we kind of look at the children, we kind of raise our voice only when there is major discrimination or exploitation that has happened. But I think our collective effort should be to ensure that this act, the provision under the schemes and the act under SSA, whatever you have mentioned right now, should be properly implemented in their respective district, in their respective locality, in the villages, so that we prevent them from being exploited, so that we prevent them from being trafficked to other places, or from preventing them to be even kept as domestic help, come going school against simultaneously going to school as well. So I think these are very important issues where we need to completely, I think, ponder upon the current scenario of education in our state.
Okay, so these SSA and RMSA schemes, they are for all the children, right? Not only for disadvantaged children.
They're for every children.
Every children. So, and these are mostly in government-run institution schools?
Of course.
Yes.
It's only for government-run institutions, yes.
Okay. What about private schools? Or you don't really see many disadvantaged children in private schools, is it?
25% of the seats
Exactly.
have to be,
Reserved for-
reserved for in the private schools,
In the
for
private schools.
for students,
Okay.
disadvantaged students. But that is the main thing that is coming in. Private schools. It is a moral responsibility again. As a society, if we can all come forward and say that, okay, through this my school, I'll take this scheme, 25% from the lower background. I'll make some changes in my school infrastructure so that a disadvantaged student can attend his classes like an equal with his other classmates, or his or her other classmates. I think that has to be an individual initiative also, and that would make our society much more healthier if we look at it.
Okay. Before we go to the other subtopic, is there any other thing else you would like to say regarding right to education, especially with regard to women?
We would like to say that the right to education, if properly implemented, because education is the key for all development, and if it is properly implemented, then we can see a lot of women facilitating that opportunity, and from that we can see them achieving their dreams, and maybe moving forward and having careers and being part of all the development activities in the states. That is our larger and biggest goals that we have.
Yeah.
So, okay, there seemed to be a little bit of discrimination, like you mentioned about the story. So actually, how to overcome this discrimination against women getting education, girls getting education, The mindset is very important, but how to reach out to the parents, the rural people, and other people?
The Beti Bachao.
As such, that's why a beautiful scheme has come up called the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. We are saying Padhao, educate your girl child, because education, as we said before, is the key. So if a lot of awareness can be done on this issue, teachers can take the moral responsibility of encouraging girls to come to school, excelling in school, then that would create a plethora of ideas and opportunities for the girls and women.
Exactly, and also prevent dropout. I think there are many students we see are not being able to pursue higher education. They just drop out halfway because of the either they don't have a good support system, or the kind of the quality of education. There's so many factors, but then I think if this is, as Juliana rightly mentioned, this can really even prevent the dropout rate in our state.
Okay, where do the girl students drop out?
Recent studies have shown that girl students drop out because of some studies that have, as we said before, economic. Then the others have been also regarding the toilet facilities that they're not getting in schools.
Okay.
Yes, which is a little bit surprising, but yes, some girls surveys have stated that. That's why under the SSA they're saying that a separate toilet for every girl, for every school. So
That's important.
those are also some of the, and then places where it has to be in the neighborhood. So the RTE says the neighborhood. Why? Because not all places are like Nagaland. Even Nagaland, we cannot say that it's now very safe. But in other places like UP and all, girls are dropping out of schools because once they reach the adolescent age, there is fear of being trafficked, there's fear of being sexually assaulted. All these cases come in. A father and a brother cannot escort his daughter all the way to school every day.
Since we are talking about Nagaland, other reasons besides, the lack of toilet facilities, or
I feel that it's the stereotype roles prescribed for a boy and a girl. The boy can go to school. Where even in cartoons we see that. In Disney, I saw Cinderella. I mean, she's been portrayed as doing the household chores, and boys have been outdoors. They've been doing things, good things, but stereotype those social image or conception has portrayed girls in such a way that it has discouraged them in moving forward, especially in the field of education.
And to add to that, they have multiple burdens. They have to help their parents at home. They have to maybe perhaps carry their siblings. No, I'm not talking about Kohima and Dimapur, where these scenes are not very common. But then in areas, if we travel to rural areas, because the parents have to go to the field, there is nobody to take care of the infant. And that's when this girl child have to either miss the classes or take the child even to the school. So will she study or take care of the child? So all these are indicators that really hinders from this child, particularly a girl child, to be able to get quality education, and eventually they drop out. They lose interest in education.
And to add on that, we came across a case where she could not continue or to go to school for a year because her mother did not want her to go because she had a newborn baby, and there was nobody to carry the baby, to take care of the younger brother. So she told us that I could not do it because I had other responsibilities.
That's where gender equity comes in. We talk about equality, but equity has to come in, where responsibilities also has to be equally divided.
Maybe in some of the cases, because they are forced, they don't have any other option, they are from poor background. So it may happen also. Is there any other final word you want to say with right to education before we go to the next topic?
Educate every girl child, not just the male, because they are also equally important.
Even parents has to be sensitized about the RTE, about different legal provisions, even the scheme, the Beti Bachao scheme, so that they are aware and they give equal importance to both the girl and the boy child when it comes to education.
Okay, that seems to be an important scheme, Beti Bachao. What is some very important salient highlights of that scheme?
Highlights of the schemes are mainly on the child sex ratio, low child sex ratio, and then it also deals with the elimination of, sex selective elimination. Then
during birth or during menstruation?
No. During conception, and of course birth also. And the other one is education, her right to her participation and education. So when you talk about Beti Bachao, you say not only her education but her participation. That means you don't just give her a high school education and say my girl is set, but you give her higher education and you say she's strong enough to be a part of the society, to participate in the society. I think that makes the scheme more beautiful in it, that says that she has to be equipped enough to participate in the society. Her society should be safe enough for her to survive, and she should be given the right to come into this world, and all the schemes. So
how would you translate that in English for, I think, better understanding of our crowd who are not familiar with Hindi? Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao.
Beti Bachao, it would be save the girl child, educate the girl child.
Okay, it's a very important thing. And so, coming back to our society, because to Nagaland, we're talking about some principles, but can you specify some very important part where this Beti Bachao can be done or is being done?
Actually, we had a very interesting post by a boy who put on Facebook saying that Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao is not relevant in Nagaland. And I would say, my gosh, when this scheme first came, I was like, we don't have female infanticide. It's not a part of our society. And when it comes to education, where do we start? Should we say there's inequality in the system? Where do we start the discrimination? Where do we intervene? But on a closer look, on the awareness that we went, on a closer look, we could find that we have to intervene and On our awareness campaign, we could see the discrimination that were underlying it. On our awareness campaigns and our workshops that we did, we could see that we cannot neglect the prenatal conception diagnostic act, or we cannot neglect the female infanticide, because now Nagas, we are a mixed community. We have people also coming from outside the states and living among us. Now, being relaxed, we are also relaxed in saying it's not part of our society. But what if other peoples are settling in our state and killing the girl child just because they want a boy child? So that issue also have to be studied. And we are so grateful that all this intervention has gone in, and the health department have also come up with a serious question on that topic, saying, are girls being killed in our state? So that is the issue. So now we can safely say, no, it's relevant to us.
On the flip side, we can also see that girl students are performing better than boy students, and they are doing much better, in fact. And so, and also even the ratio of students, girls might be even more in many cases. So these are positive developments.
Exactly.
And so, what would your activities with Right to Education supplement these or support these, in Nagaland? Still, then there's a lot of work to be done. So what would be the other work to be done,
First of all, RTE has to be implemented in its true sense. As you said, girls are excelling in education. They can excel in education only when quality education is provided to them, not just going to school. It is not quantity, but it is quality. Because of the quality of education, our girls are excelling. So, and we need to encourage our girls. Encourage them, make them dream. Don't tell them that you are studying because you are going to get married. Tell them that you are studying because you are going to be someone tomorrow. Make your parents proud. Why only your parents, your home country? Why don't you make the whole world proud of you someday, So we have to make our girls dream big. And so under the RTE, when we talk about it also envisions awareness campaign for education, awareness on education. So if that is emphasized, if teachers are sensitized, and if girl children are encouraged to not drop out of schools, then we can see that, as you said, girls are excelling. We might see more girls excelling in the future.
And just a psychological factor, I feel, when boys are given the first preference and girls the second or the third, you tend to do something which you don't get. So when you're given the second preference, you want to go for it. When you're given the chance, and you do it and you show. But boys say that men, they say that girls are doing much better. Girls are getting jobs more than boys. But I think it's because of the preference or the opportunity being given to a boy and a girl.
Just for the audience, we're not being anti-women, anti-men here, but in one of the episodes we had discussed about violence against women in detail. In one of in the cases that we have come across, many of the women they choose to be in an abusive relationship or domestic violence cases because they are not economically independent. They're so economically dependent on their partner that there is no other way out. So we are focusing more on women and girl child so that when they grow up, they will have their voice. They will know not to remain silent when they are being violated in any form. So I think that's the long-term goal when we are talking about girls education, and not that we are anti-boys.
Okay, we are giving awareness to the girls, the ladies, as well as to all sections of society, but specifically for ladies.
Exactly.
Okay, then if that is all we have for this topic, let's move on to our next subtopic, which is, I believe, it is child sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse is a thing which has been going on throughout the world, but maybe even in our history it might have happened, we don't really know. But can we have a perspective about this abuse of children in Nagaland, before we talk go to the questions?
Child sexual abuse, is it really relevant to Nagaland? Is it really happening? Many parents, nowadays when you open the newspaper, it's there. Before, when we open the newspaper, it will be a non-local. Now we can open the newspaper and says it's done by a father, grandfather, stepfather, brothers, teachers, and not naming so many other people that we have always trusted, you know. And there's this fear psychosis. I'm a mother myself, and I have a daughter, so this fear psychosis goes in you, like, oh, is my baby safe at home? Can I just leave her with a nanny? And if she's taking a bath, if she's changing her nappy, is it safe for, you know, unknown man to be just staring at her? Why are they staring at her that way, you know? Are they just staring at her because they are looking at her cute looks, or is it something at the back of their mind? So this is not my fear. This is the fear of so many women out there now. Nagaland, we cannot say, yes, fathers also, with my husband. So we cannot say that this is not happening in Nagaland. Even the Bible says that children are pure and innocent. And how can we commit such atrocities to children who cannot comprehend even what is happening to them? Not even girls, but boys are not even safe. So in our society now, we cannot say only cases of girls are coming up, but I can assure you that definitely there are cases of boys as well. And that's why we cannot neglect this issue. This issue is very close to us, and we cannot neglect this issue and say this is not happening to us. This is happening to us. It is at our doorstep. We never know when, you know, this kind of things might escalate. So we need to curb this. So we must say that it is. We have to admit it, that it is happening.
Okay. What could be some factors for the rise or for the increase in incidences of child abuse? What could be factors?
I mean, children, they are the most vulnerable. They are the most vulnerable, and they can't speak. And that's why the abusers feel it is easier to abuse them, you know. That is, I mean, that is like a general statement, but if you have any...
As you said, surveys have shown that children are vulnerable. They cannot question. They are easily controlled. And the other thing is, you know, the rise of pornography. That has also been a factor where child explicit materials relating to child pornography is easily available. Our mindset are changing, you know. Or there are cases where a man, where he do not have the courage to approach women, he approaches a young girl. All for his sexual activity, you know. So all these kinds of things that are penetrating into our society is affecting and is giving rise to the child sexual abuse.
What could we do in terms of awareness to alleviate this problem in Nagaland society,
To make people aware that such kind of acts or commission is an offense and is punishable under the law, and to also be aware about the act, the POCSO Act, that was in order to effectively address the heinous crimes of sexual abuse or sexual exploitation of children, I should say through lesser ambiguous and more stringent legal provisions. It is the Ministry of Women and Child Development that has that has introduced the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. The Act clearly says that it defines different forms of sexual abuse and also includes penetrative and non-penetrative assault, as well as sexual harassment or like what our colleague, our ma'am has mentioned, showing pornography. The Act also deems a sexual assault to be aggravated under certain circumstances. Lastly, it says that a person or people who traffics children for sexual purposes, they'll be punishable under the provisions relating to abetment. And we have a list of punishments Abhan can lay down.
What I'm going to say is going to be a little bit technical and going to be a little bit boring, but there are like certain provision has been let down for the offenses that has been committed on the child. For example, if the offense is of a penetrative sexual assault, the punishment is for 7 years with fine, and if the offense is an aggravated penetrative sexual assault, is for 10 years with imprisonment for life. It can extend to with fine. There are also sexual assault on the child. So if the sexual assault on the child, then it is for 3 years with fine. And if the assault sexual assault is an aggrieved sexual assault is for 5 years. There is also this.
Interestingly, the Act has also laid down certain do's and don'ts for a police officer when it comes to offences of sexual abuse. Yeah.
And if the offense has been committed on the child, it's been a sexual harassment on the child, then the offense is for like 3 years, 3 years with fine. And if the child has been used for a pornographic purpose or like relating to pornography, it's for 5 years. And if it has several attempts, then it's for 7 years with fine. When it comes to child, it gets a little bit tacky, and like most of the people, they don't know about the ideas and the do's and don'ts about what to do, because the law is being newly implemented, and then it's been a very newly used in our society. So the provision let down by the Act for the police officer, to some I can explain, share is like, if the child is been a girl child, if the victim is a girl child, the medical examination has to be conducted by a female doctor in front of the parents, and there should be special court provision to be provided, special court for the kid, and the kid should feel, the environment should be in such a way that the child, it's child friendly, and the police officers, they don't necessarily have to wear uniform. They can't wear uniform in front of the kid and then ask like aggressive questions and all. So this
and it has been made mandate.
So these are some
the police
provisions.
are aware of this, right?
Yes,
They should be, because
they
they have to.
For the benefit of the viewers, if you can kindly elaborate, what is this child? Who is the child? Who can who falls under this POCSO Act? And also the other bit is penetrative act. That is something very common that amounts to rape, and most of the cases that is reported are penetrative offences. What about the non-penetrative? What are the different kind of non-penetrative acts that can also be reported?
Showing pornography,
just touching
her or teasing her, or even threatening her that he'll do something, or to outrage her modesty. That's one factor. And regarding the uniforms thing, I'm still stuck there, because we came across a case, and the person concerned told us that the boy child, he kept running away, though he really he was in need of the police intervention. So of course not blaming the police or any stakeholders, but being aware of the act, or certain guidelines that has the do's and don'ts. It's helpful, and it's very important for somebody who has been assigned to do that, to implement it, because every time he saw the police with the uniform, he ran away, for which he continued, and he started to commit bigger crimes.
Many children have psychological mental fear of police or
with the
wearing
uniform.
and all that.
And a confession made by a child that the police threatened him that he'll put him in jail, and but the act says that we cannot detain
a child in the police custody
at night.
At night.
So these are things that a person who has been assigned to do that should know, so that we can achieve the bigger picture. I mean,
yeah, I think it being a new act, there is a lot to be done.
There's a lot.
What is the definition for child, and also the year for the child?
The act says that any person below the age of 18 years is a child.
Okay, okay. And to remind our viewers that the three of you or two of you are lawyers over here. They are trained and practicing lawyers, so they know what they are talking about, and especially the legal side of it. What are offenses and punishments then? Again, you have already talked in detail, but are the offenses and punishment different for adult and child offenders? Meaning
Yes.
against adult and against child.
If the accused is a child, it will be covered by Juvenile Justice Act.
Yes.
Children will be covered under the Juvenile Justice Act. So if he is an adult, of course, the criminal procedure and the CRPC and all this IPC will be laid down to punish the culprit.
Children are sent to observation home. The juvenile, whoever the abuser is, will be sent to observation home, and we don't really call them a sentence as such, but they are kept as for rehabilitation.
Okay. Before we leave this very important topic about child sexual abuse, is there any important thing you would like to say?
Educate the society and make sure that you educate your child about sex education. You cannot make sure the world is changing in such a way that you cannot make a child unaware of what is going around him. So in very mild manner, you have to teach the child that if a person, that's why we go awareness in schools and teach the children about good touches and bad touches. If a person touches you in this way, that way, now that is a bad touch. You should also let your child know that you will be always there for him or her. They should have the confidence in you that even if anybody does anything to them, whether it's the teacher, whether it's in the Sunday school, or whether in church, or whatever happened to him, everywhere, anywhere, he or she should be able to be confident enough to come and tell you about a problem, complain to you, and that you will not judge him. Because many of the time it is made to feel that it is because of the child, something that he did wrong, that's why this has happened to him. So you should never make your child feel that way. You should always encourage your child to say that we are always here for you, you can always come and complain. And there is also the child line, 1098, where it's a toll-free number. You can call that number for any child who is in need of care and protection, and they'll take care of any situation that the child is in.
So can you tell more about that line again?
We have child line is 1098. It's a toll-free number, 24/7, just like 181 again. If you call that number, you can call up for any child you can see who is, who's lost, who is in need of care and protection. If you are aware of any child who has been abused, who has been sexually abused, or any kind of abuse that they're going through, you can report it to 1098. Then they'll take up the case. I'll say it in Nagamese. Apnian bishi bak bacha khan ina mari she na khan bi jane aro kiteba mohan bacha khan harigin bi pai ina nohile bi tahan ke manula ghore thakine tahan ke biya kam kora bi jane boli kun ke complain kro ina bi bishi thake apnian 1098 call kudishe kole tahan apnian ke help kuduo aro utu bacha ke bi help kuduo. As a society, as a member of a society, it is your duty that you call up these numbers and help a child in need.
Thank you for that very important information, and we'll have noted it and we'll have written it down, and I'm sure our viewers will take action when they come across any incidences of child abuse, or they see it or experience it. And so we encourage you to write to that, to call that number. And for today, for right now, thank you so much for talking to us on these topics. We want to make sure that our people are aware of it, and thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this platform.